What up, y'all? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to WWT Live. TK Trinidad here. We have so much to talk about. We're going to be talking about Trinity. We're going to be talking about Jordan Grace. And we're going to be talking about all things Bayley coming up to WrestleMania coming up next.
Howdy, folks. This is Willow Nightingale, and you are watching Women's Wrestling Talk.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
What up, y'all? Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. TK Trinidad here for WWT Live, Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. We got so much to talk about, and I am not alone.
Go forward. Go forward. Go forward. Go forward.
You got the professor in the building. How are you doing, Professor?
I can never get past that. That's hilarious. I'm doing good for a Wednesday. It's the last day of January. And for everybody who felt like January felt like the whole year, get ready because the quickest month of the year starts tomorrow.
It's crazy. Like, I feel like, and I feel like maybe you might feel the same way. I know a lot of people who feel this, and I've never felt like this before. I want January back. Like, I feel like January is just a weird month, and it's never been that weird at the start of a year for me before. I'm like, I feel like, like the universe needs to do it over again. Like, I'm not for that January.
I would not mind a do-over for January. That's for sure. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind.
So let's get into it. Let's start with the bump. I was really happy to see that both Bayley and Naomi. I get Naomi's a WWE name, but why not just come back as Trinity? But
it's interesting. We ended up having that particular discussion on Monday, and the whole IP of it all and all that stuff. If anything, I think it says to me that Trinity and TNA did a fantastic job of rebranding her such that it's almost confusing to call her Naomi again. So I think they did a great job. The other side of that is from an IP perspective, and I know you understand this. Obviously, WWE owns all things Naomi. With Trinity, she would likely have had to have gotten that licensed by WWE too. So I don't know if you need to give them all of that stuff. So, I
definitely see that. But if you get that licensed, there's brand crossover. So when she does I guess maybe in the contract that she does get her name and it goes through WWE, then that means that almost in perpetuity, they will get a percentage of. But technically, that's her name, because isn't that why Ultimate Warrior changed his name to Ultimate Warrior? Like,
literally, and why what's his name? Ryback did the same thing, changed his name to Ryback. Like, it's
legally Trinity is her name. So
yeah, these are questions past our pay grade.
I feel like I will never know, and I would never ask, because that's not what friends actually do. But I feel like that contract had to be that contract had to be good. There's no way. There's no way.
I would almost guarantee that, given the reason she left, for her to come back, it had to be a very sweet deal. And there had to be some things in there, whatever the things were, that could make, because she was being treated like gold in TNA. And even the way that TNA sent her off and wished her well on the socials. I've never seen a company do that in modern times. When somebody leaves, usually it's, best.
AEW did that with Jade Cargill.
Oh, not like this. Not like AEW was kind in giving her a last match. But and some of the stars afterwards independently said that, hey, we're really happy for her. But at no point did Tony Khan get on these socials and say, we're so proud of you, Jade. In the scrum, he didn't do that. In fact, in the scrum, what he did was he tried to explain, we offered her money, we did these kinds of things. but it was never, we wish her well. She contributed so much. It was an honor to work with her. That was the
Right.
spirit of TNA, which I just thought was, I mean, it's ideal. It's like perfect, you know? And so with that, we say all of that to remind everybody that Naomi made her first WWE interview since her return today on The Bump. It was actually a pretty star-studded episode of The Bump. You had Bayley, the Royal Rumble winner, on, and then Naomi was on, and obviously they wanted to talk to Naomi about her return and things of that nature. What I thought was so awesome about this, they asked Naomi, what's different between the Naomi that left and the Naomi that is here? And her answer was confidence. And she talked specifically about what she accomplished in TNA. And what I thought was so powerful about that was, here again, TNA is being mentioned regularly on WWE programming, which
Mhm.
speaks volumes to me in terms of the agreement that must exist between those two, a happy working agreement that we may never publicly get the details of, other than knowing that they're both working under the Endeavor umbrella. But
Right.
it's exciting, and I'm personally very happy to see Naomi be able to reference her time in TNA as that without having to kind of speak of it in a veiled or cloaked manner.
Right. Yeah, no, I like, for you guys, what up Jeffrey and what up Bosa and Cool Gamer, for you guys who, it's not even like a clout thing. Like I've always been team Trin, team Naomi. So I'm really happy for her. And you guys are not necessarily privy to our group chat, but during the Royal Rumble, I'm like, when she came back, I'm like, okay, I want her to win the Rumble selfishly. But my thing is that, like, it's no different than, say if you're like in a relationship or something, and that person didn't treat you well, you kind of lost your footing. Like, you were this confident person, and you got kind of lost your footing. Little professor sighting. You kind of lost your footing a little bit, and then you actually go off on your own, and like you're able to reestablish that. Like you always knew what your worth was, but there is
Mhm.
like, I think leaving WWE was probably the best thing she could have done.
Right,
Um,
right.
because she had that moment to herself.
Mhm.
So now coming back is great. My thing is um, doing right by her and what that's going to look like.
And I guess the question is, we're gonna have to define what doing right looks like for her, because I think we have an idea of what we'd like to see doing right by her looking like. Um, the other thing that I think is, given, times are just so different. When she left, the women's division looked much different than it does now. And
Mhm.
it's crazy to think that that was only 18 months ago. So
Crazy.
it's amazing to see how the division has changed since then. Son, I already told you. Come on now. Thank you. So it's kind of amazing to think of how it's changed so much. So now Naomi goes away, becomes Trinity, becomes a massive star, a world champion. Everybody gets to see what she can do. And we forget she did this literally with only 6 months in the ring. Like, it
Mhm.
was kind of amazing to think about that. So the question now is, how much time will it take for her to end up in whatever we deem to be the main event picture? That I think is an interesting question. Right now, it seems like the title picture, at least through WrestleMania, is pretty much locked up. You can
Right.
imagine, obviously, Bayley winning the Rumble guarantees her one match. Many think either Nia or Becky will occupy whatever the other spot is, depending upon where Bayley goes. So the
Mhm.
question then becomes, where does Naomi get to fit in this picture? I just think this. I think, as the wrestling community, before we pass judgment on whether or not this was a good move and whether or not they're doing right by her, we're going to need to give it 6 months to a year. It's not going to happen in 2 to 3 months. I just need to
Well,
prepare everybody's mind for that.
and there's two sides, right? There's two
Mhm.
sides of me. There's a side of me that I fully agree with you on the mature level side, and then there's a side of me that like, you want to root for your friends, right?
Sure.
And at the end of the day, it's kind of like, how they and it how she came out and the love she got and all this stuff was great. How they brought out Jade was two totally different things. And so I'm curious on both fronts. You know, you brought Jade into the Rumble, what that's going to look like, how you're going to treat Jade, because as far as the women's picture, and they don't need titles, so that's fine. But like, how are both women going to be treated? And just kind of going back to Trinity, there have been times where she was just sitting in catering for a long period of time and not doing anything, didn't have anything for her, while her counterparts had all these storylines over and over again. So my fear is, and I get, you know, Triple H is different, it's new regime, but you know, it's like you have her sit and cook for 6 months or find that right story, and they might have a plan. They've been doing well. It's just that I guess it's a little bit of PTSD, where it's just kind of, you know, you've done it dirty before.
PTSD is a fair thing. I think the other thing that we have to consider is, again, so much right now is different in WWE. And again, that's new for everybody. The idea that, you know, as of late, we've been starting to care more about the tag team championships on the women's side. I actually believe that what we could have, or now would be a great time, and I've seen this mentioned before, for a mid-card championship for the women to be inserted, because I think around there you have an opportunity to create a story around a title. The other thing that I think is going to be important is WWE's ability to tell a story in the women's division that does not surround a title that keeps us interested. And I think, you know, as fans, we have to acknowledge, you know, right now there are 2 women's championships. Only 2 women can hold those championships. There can be a number of contenders that, you know, potentially vie for that. But there are a lot of people right now who are very interested in becoming champions. So I think there are options. One of the things that I think, and I don't remember where I suggested it, it might have been yesterday on Wrestle Extra, what I think would be a brilliant move is this. All of this talk that's been going on about, you know, this one and that one and the other one. Here's how you solve this problem if you want to get an immediate jump. WrestleMania, Naomi versus Jordan Grace for the TNA Knockouts Championship. That's never been done before. It keeps Naomi in the picture. It also furthers this whole connection between TNA. It marks the first time ever that a non-WWE championship is defended at WrestleMania. It brings eyes for TNA. It brings eyes for WWE. It's a win all the way around. And whether Naomi wins or loses, she's in that title picture, which I think speaks volumes. I think that right now is the easiest way you solve that particular issue in terms of getting her around a title and around a historic moment.
So I have a lot of people, shout out to my folks on Instagram watching us. So
Nice.
You have Nick Flynet, Goat Radio Podcast, Jay Leon 8309, and a friend to the show, my brother from another mother, Evan T. Mack.
Ah, yes, the legend.
That won't happen. That is what he's saying. And I can see him saying, you know how you have some friends who they just are them 24/7, and you can see you don't have to see their face. You just know how they said it. Oh, yeah. When I read that, I saw Evan in my head saying that. So that is what Evan is saying. I mean, yeah, it says, and Evan says it's not because it's not a bad idea. Just because WWE is careful. Evan, you should just come on the show, but I digress. Just because WWE is careful with who and when they highlight. I like the idea though. Yeah, it really is just dependent on. I think we were talking about this before we started. Even though WWE is coming around to, like, they're allowing folks to talk about TNA, they have Forbidden Door and stuff like that. I think they're still like the top dog. I'm gonna make another terrible analogy. You're in a relationship. Your girlfriend is okay for you to have girlfriends, like have friends who are girls, but it's only like to a certain extent. Like, we're not going like for somebody who's hot and fawning all over. Like we're only allowing for a certain amount. And with WWE, I think it's like we're allowing for a certain amount, but we're not gonna essentially give you free press. I think that's what it kind of comes into. What up, JD?
Here, this is what's going to be so interesting for 2024 is, you know, we're in such a different day, and it's hard for us to fathom some of the things that are possible in the world of WWE because we've never seen this version of WWE before. We've never seen a version of WWE, number one, that's owned by another company. We've never seen a version of WWE that does not have a McMahon in charge in the company. We've never seen these kinds of things before. And so because of that, it often makes it hard to imagine, wow, could XYZ actually happen? But when you look at the idea of, again, what happened with the TNA Knockouts champion as Mickey James coming in 2 years ago, and what that Rumble appearance looked like versus this Jordynne Grace appearance, two totally different things. And I think that has a lot to do with the new era they're in. Think about it. Jordynne Grace was in the Rumble, 25, 30 minutes and was only eliminated. I think we need to pay attention to this. She was only eliminated by a KOD outside of the ring by Bianca Belair, the company's biggest female star. So that says a lot about Jordynne Grace. WWE was very high from what I'm hearing on her performance, all of these kinds of things. So things really are different. And if we're in an era, again, to your point, the door isn't wide open. This isn't bringing in AEW or anything like this. But what they're doing with TNA, why I think it's actually consistent with WWE's DNA, given what they did in the past with ECW, given what they've done in the past with other organizations where they found a way to work together to make it happen. So I don't think it's out of the question. Boza had a question and I was too busy talking.
Yeah, I really like that. I highlighted it. So quick for the people who are listening, Bosa, our informational officer, he said, quick question for Professor and Real TK. Could Bayley use her Royal Rumble shot on Jordynne Grace? That would be insane. It would be insane, but I think it definitely goes back to the fact that, like, and this is not for you folks who followed me and us for a long time. We're fans of TNA and formerly known as Impact Wrestling. It's not a knock by what I say when I say this. However, like, if we do that, like, that's cute, but that's not, like, at the end of the day, like, let's be very clear for the folks who are, wrestling fans and all that stuff, it's still a business. If WWE was not making money off of all this stuff, and they can throw a little bone here and there, but at the end of the day, the goal is to make money, especially now since they're a public entity. They're in bed with Endeavor, TKO, all that stuff. It's all about furthering making more profit. And so bringing Jordynne into that, although now I'm going back on my whole thing, the fact that TNA is in bed with Endeavor, it might benefit the both of them. I just think as far as brand overall, it just harkens back to the Nike Reebok feud. And like, you can't allow the competition, like technically you're supposed to like kill the competition.
Well, I think that's just it. This isn't competition. And I think we have to switch our mindsets on this. If we're under, so case in point, right? If there are multiple shows here on this network, those shows are not competing with each other. Because we're under the same network. So that's why we can share hosts, we can share different personalities. There might be times someone from the NXT show ends up here, someone from here ends up on the WoW suit, because at the end of the day, it's under the branding of Women's Wrestling Talk. What we now have to get under our minds is that this is a partnership, not competition. I was wondering, before the Rumble, the Thursday night before the Rumble, I was watching TNA and it was Nick Nemeth's first match outside of WWE. And I
Mhm.
just was blown away at how many times they stressed it was his first match outside of WWE. And it
Mhm.
just was like, they're saying WWE almost too much. Like, what's with that? Then, of course, 2 days later, Naomi shows up, Jordan Grace shows up. You know, we've got all these TNA mentions. I think it's becoming clear that the reason these two are working together is because there's a partnership. There
Yeah.
is not a competition. So when there's a partnership, the aim is to figure out how both companies make money. Since it's under the Endeavor brand, Endeavor needs to see that TNA makes money just like WWE. Different scales?
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
Different expectations in terms of amounts? Yes. But if, for instance, WWT Live can help bring more eyes to the NXT show or to the WoW Superheroes show, you would say, let's figure out how we can do that, and vice versa. So I think that's the key to this, is that it's a partnership. And so because it's a partnership, there is the greater likelihood that TNA would end up at WrestleMania in some way, shape, or form. Not necessarily a TNA versus WWE war or anything like that,
Mhm.
but it would end up being a space because, again, the goal is we're not islands unto ourselves. We're two different brands, but we're under this umbrella of Endeavor. And Endeavor wants to see that all of its properties make money and do well.
I mean, do you think that now, because if you even look at it, right, we have Mickey James and obviously Jordan Grace,
Mhm,
both women.
mhm,
Do you think that is just very part and parcel to just the women's division? Because I mean, WWE's women's division is now getting to be like really like stacked and great. So we're
mhm.
all, and then I mean, we've talked several times about NXT.
Yeah.
So do you think it's just more, this is just very isolated for the women's division, or do you think that this is going to be extended to the men's division? Because the men's side roster is like, even though we don't see all of them, they're I'm pretty much on every AEW, Impact, and WWE. The men's roster is like 80-20 or 70-30. Like there's
Mhm.
way more men than women on all the major promotions.
I wonder if the attempts with the women's divisions working together is kind of a trial to see if
Mhm.
indeed it could work with the men. And if so, now here's where I think it will get interesting. I think that they will choose people that are in TNA that are not former WWE properties, for lack of a better term. I hate to use that term, properties. But for instance, it would seem almost awkward for Nick Nemeth to appear in this partnership right now, maybe
Right.
somewhere
Yeah.
down the road, but
Mhm.
not right now. So they would want to get somebody. And the other thing too is you need to get somebody that is definitively branded with TNA. So when people see them, they immediately think TNA, like they did with Jordan Grace. So in
Mhm.
that case, it might be like a Josh Alexander, or like an Alex Shelley, or someone along that ilk who is definitively TNA. But I could potentially see it happening. Now, a scenario which would really be ideal is if WWE still had its cruiserweight division. Because if we had a cruiserweight division, that versus some of the people in the X division would make a ton of sense,
Mhm.
and we could really tell a lot of fun stories there. But I don't think it's an impossibility that down the road we see some of the men from TNA cross pollinate in WWE as well,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
vice
like,
versa.
yeah, it's good. It's good to see the acknowledgement. I mean, we talked about this. I'm sure you guys talked about it on Monday as well. It's good, and shout out to cousin Ron in the chat for
Hey,
joining us,
hey.
Shadow Wrangler. It's good to see the partnership. It's
Hmm.
good to see the crossover. It's great to see Jordan on there. And I mean, I think we were talking about this at the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024, that it's such a great, and I was talking to, we're adding a new host to our roster, and you'll see her coming on in the next week and a half or so. I was talking to her about that, where it's just like, it's great to we're in an era where we don't know. And that's
Right.
a good place to be. We don't know. We don't quite know what's happening with Royal Rumble. I mean, not Royal Rumble, excuse me, with WrestleMania. We didn't expect CM Punk to be injured. Seth is trying to come back. We're going to talk about Charlotte, all this stuff. We didn't expect Naomi to come back, and it's so funny because I have to give you guys the lowdown. The professor decided to ignore all the WhatsApp messages.
Oh,
during
yes,
the
I did.
on these spoilers, and I was dying to say we went at nauseum as to why Naomi shouldn't come back, and then we see her out the next day on it. And like I said, happy for her, but then that like blows our whole thing out of the water, which is a great thing. I mean, we're not, we're not psychics, but it's we just don't know. Like we don't know if something's cooking. We don't know if the idea of let me get the picture. Let me get the picture. We don't know if the idea of they call it the bloodline, but we all know it's really the Simone dynasty. We don't know if the idea of that will actually come into fruition, especially since it's so hot right now. Like when I was pitching it, and I should really find the clip of Evan talking about it, which was years ago, when I was really like for it, this bloodline, all this stuff didn't even exist. So now we almost have like a multi-universe of like the Samoans. And by the way, we have an interview dropping with the Tonga twins. We have an interview dropping with the Tonga twins this week, which they are kind of sort of related to that. And can you imagine and they're from WoW, if you guys don't watch WoW, could you imagine if they get added to the roster as women? Twins, we already have
I could see it. I could see it. I think, it is funny. Yes, I did purposely block all of those notifications. I was at an award show and I just did not want to get it spoiled what would happen. But what's so interesting here is, and this goes back to a comment I made earlier, in our minds, there's so much more for her to accomplish still outside of WWE. Enough time hasn't passed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what none of us know is what was in her mind in terms of being able to sign again on the dotted line. She obviously, and this is the part none of us obviously knew until this month, she signed a 6-month deal for a reason, and I don't know if that was just to be able to say, let's see how this works and I can re-sign if I want, or I can go back to WWE. It left her options, obviously. It also explains why they put the rocket ship right on her, which made sense. The company benefited, everybody won. So we may never know what's in this new contract that made her go, let me go home, let me go home. And Shadow Ranger, she was not there for 9 months. She got there in June. So unless June to January is suddenly 9 months, it's not 9 months. But to that end, I do think what's important is as long as she's happy, that's what matters. As fans, we have all these ideas of what people want and what they should have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But as long as she is happy, and clearly she found something in the new regime of WWE, in the new contract that made her go, absolutely, yes, let me go back home. She knows something that we don't, obviously. And whatever it is that's working for her, I salute her. And I just want this run for her to be something that makes her happy. That's what I want.
I definitely agree. And I mean, obviously, we can talk about, we pretty much have been talking about Trinity Naomi for 30 minutes. So let's move. What else? Because I could literally talk about the possibilities for another 30. But let's move on to something else. What else you want to talk about?
Well, staying in a similar vein, there's an interesting thing that happened with Natalya, who actually put out there on Twitter, or X, whatever we're calling it. She said this: I would jump at the chance to battle Jordynne Grace. Loved our chemistry in the Rumble. I can feel your passion for this. And she is very interested in the idea of that match happening even in TNA, which again, this is the first time that we have heard It's the first time that we've heard from a WWE contracted superstar that they are interested in wrestling somebody in another promotion. Again, we're in a different day,
Mhm.
but again, I think it lends itself to the concept that this is a partnership and that this is not competition. So for Natalia, who is so, well vested in WWE, to say that and to be in that space, I think it would be awesome. Again, this is one of those moments that would work really, really well for TNA and its viewership. Can you
Mhm.
imagine how many eyes will be on their product for Natalia to head over there and have a match with Jordan Grace? I mean, that would be everything. You know what I mean? So I think we're in a different space right now, and there's no telling who could end up in a crossover or a sharing of talent like this.
Yeah, I mean, I, I feel I feel like that would move the needle a little bit, but you know what would move the needle a lot, and I don't think this would. It kind of really goes back, even though they're kind of in this maybe handshake partnership. What would really move the needle? Bianca and Jordan Grace.
We would have to work to that, I think.
Yeah.
We would have to work to that. But I do think, because here, I want to say this really carefully. Um, I don't think that um that there would be the expectation that Natalia would defeat Jordan Grace.
Hmm. Mm.
You see what I'm saying?
Well,
So
yeah. If she goes to TNA, if she goes to TNA, I feel like you can't. It's yeah, you can't do that. That doesn't.
yeah, it's crazy. Some would expect her to win because she's WWE, but
Mhm.
I just look at how she I mean, she's gone to NXT to help put that talent over and things of that nature. So I don't know how that would go. It would be interesting to see how it would happen. I totally believe TNA would honor Natalia, honor her history, all of those kinds of things. Now, I agree, a Bianca Jordan match would be insane. It would be amazing. Let me speak to Boza's comment. Just nervous. Would TNA benefit from the relationship when AEW and TNA had a relationship? It benefited the fake TK 3 ways till Sunday. Well, let's remember that there are two different terms of these relationships. You had the other TK attempt. God, I want to say this carefully. Attempting to be benevolent and trying to do something that hadn't been done in terms of working with other promotions, but they didn't have anything in common. They didn't have a governing body over them saying, here's how we're going to do business. Everything pretty much happened uh at the will of Tony Khan. I
Mhm.
don't remember in any of those TNA AEW clashes where anyone from TNA won. I don't with the exception of Christian Cage beating Kenny Omega for the Impact World Championship. It happened on the debut episode of Rampage, and Christian Cage was signed to AEW at the time. So do with that what you want, right? I will totally agree that the relationship between AEW and TNA was not mutually beneficial. Again, the difference here is this governing body of endeavor to whom both TNA and WWE have relationship. And so that is what makes this a partnership. And again, in fairness to every single fan in all of pro wrestling, we have never seen this version of the WWE before.
Yes, very true.
So for everybody, it's very easy for all of us to be in a space of PTSD. Well, this is what WWE did 3 years ago, and this is what they did 5 years ago. But you have to remember, it's a much different ball game right now. And WWE having a boss, having somebody to answer to, for anybody who's ever been an entrepreneur, when you work for someone corporately and you work for yourself, it's two totally different things. And so I think we just have to now put on a new thinking cap when we consider what this could do for both organizations, which I think they will have to find a way for it to be mutually beneficial.
Well, we will see. It's
see.
exciting. It does feel different from the AEW Impact partnership. It definitely feels more, I guess, mutually beneficial, like you were saying, as far as different levels, obviously. But yeah, this, I mean, the fact that and I think too with how it happened. I mean, even if you're a WWE fan, you don't watch any other promotion. The fact that Jordan and Trin had the moment in the ring. The fact that if you were to Google Trinity and where she's been, because you're like, say if you don't know anything about Impact, and you're like just a casual fan, you Google Trinity and you're where she's been, you're gonna see a whole catalog of her at TNA. And now you can reference that story. It's kind of like different universes crossing together. And speaking of different universes or people coming off the streets, he has decided to grace us with his actually, before we do that, because shout out to MDB999, thank you for joining as well, and Bobby as well. Before we do that, the great thing about partnerships and all that stuff is that we get to create amazing merch that you can take part of. And we definitely want you to check all of that out. So here we go.
Hey, yo, you. Yeah, you that's watching this. You sitting on the couch staring at the screen not knowing what you want to do like this is an online college. Are you tired of wearing shirts that make you look like an extra stuck in catering? Do you want to step your wrestling swag game up to the next level? Then Women's Wrestling Talk has got you covered. Like literally. Are you for life in pink or black and white? Or maybe you're the EST and people need to respect you accordingly. Want to put some pride in your stride and show off the muscle in your hustle? Then make sure you check out the WWT store. Not now, but right now. Alright? What you waiting for? Head to www.talkpodstore.com and don't make me fight you. Shit.
He said has decided to grace us with his presence. No bow tie today. No, ambiance. No pictures of beautiful ladies. Got the headphones in. Welcome.
Well, that's a great welcome. It's a great welcome. And I know you guys been on here for a little bit. I said I'd be fashionably late a little earlier. It's a little bit later than fashionably, but you know what? I show up. I do it for those that pay the minimum amount due. I do it for that audience of people. Nobody caught that reference. Okay, that's good.
No, I did not.
It's cool. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired, but I'm still gonna be here.
I got a lot left in the tank. It's meat.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, you kind of threw me off with that reference, but welcome, he said. Yeah, awkward silence indeed. And, we're still waiting for the date to start that NXT show. So just, FYI. Shout out to Brian Waters in the chat as well on IG.
That's not on me.
Ah, nice.
That's not on me.
Oh, yeah, you missed it. Oh, yeah, we'll talk offline with all this stuff, Professor. You missed a lot on that extended Royal Rumble coverage. So, yeah. There's several things are happening. But with that being said, what else do we got?
Well, let's talk about all this talk of NXT. Let's talk about NXT. Last night, we saw the finals of the Dusty Rhodes Classic set as Trick Mello Gang got the victory over the LWO, setting up their finals happening this weekend at Vengeance Day, where they will take on the Wolf Dogs. That is Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin. And I think they've accepted that name as they refer to themselves at this. But I think the other story in there is there's now being a case made that could it indeed have been Ilya Dragunov all along, setting up Trick Williams? I don't know if it's me, but it feels like Carmelo Hayes is starting to create a more compelling case for this idea that it could be Ilya and not Carmelo. So yeah, that's kind of how we left NXT last night. Looks interesting to me on top of all the other things that have happened. So I guess the question to throw to you guys is, could this have actually been Ilya Dragunov all along?
I think it would make his character a lot more interesting as a champion if they went that route. You know, you can't just be the angry, intense guy that turns red every single opponent you have. I think this would add an extra layer of kind of the dastardly vibe if that was the case. Knowing who's next up and want to take them out before they get there, it makes sense. I think we all know that Braun Breaker and Melo are main roster bound right now. So you need to have something with some layers to push this story along, and that would be perfect if it was the case.
I mean, just the name just caught my attention. Balls Deep, shout out. I guess it's your first time joining us, so thanks for telling people to smash that like button. Tink54 on IG says that Ilya is the puppet master, and I'm thinking of, this is like a super old movie, and I feel like they should make a remake of it, The Usual Suspects. I feel like if they do play that, if they do that, they have to do like the go back in time to see all the moments that he played a role. If they miss that, and I know it's wrestling and I know it's TV, I know it's not a movie, but let's also be honest, like Paul Heyman, The Bloodline, R-Truth, you know, there's several people on the WWE roster that deserve Oscar nominations. So I feel like if you're gonna do that, then also have that play as well. Just, you know, for the ish of it all. So I mean, I like it. I still think it's mellow, but I am kind of tired of the best friends turning on each other type thing. It really depends on how they play it out. I think it is mellow, but what if it's, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I still don't know.
I think they have to like have them win the Dusty Classic and actually challenge for the tag titles, right? Because they're going to drag this along for a while.
Well, there's not much longer to drag along. I mean, it's February. The Stand and Deliver's top of April. So we don't have and they'll probably have that spring break thing that they do in March. Mm-hmm. So there's enough time to where if the turn happens this weekend, which in my mind, the turn's got to happen this weekend if it's going to happen. You know, there's a couple of ways it could go down. It could go down with Trick and Melo winning, strangely enough, and then Melo deciding, Trick, you won't get ahead of me. So, you know, they'll do something to somehow cost him the championship, which it could go down as one of those moments where, you know, right before Trick gets ready to hit his big move, you know, the place goes dark, and then it's NXT's Anonymous who comes up, and now they finally found the footage of what happened. And now we get to see, and it starts off grainy. Because remember, we're getting in NXT a lot of Shawn Michael greatest hits reboots. And this could be the greatest hit reboot of when he got thrown through the car by Triple H, and they didn't know who did it all that time. And then they had the grainy footage, and they work it out, and they find out it's Triple H. It could be that kind of thing that happens during that main event match where we find out who it was. And whoever it is, if it's Ilya, if it is Melo, it ultimately throws off the concentration of Trick, costs him the match, and then we're off to the races. Though I gotta say, it seems like sooner rather than later, Trick Williams is going to be the NXT champion. The question just is when.
Yeah, especially from that response he got on SmackDown. They're raving about that. My problem is it literally adds nothing to Carmelo Hayes if it's Melo. And if he goes to SmackDown, it adds 0 to his character.
Well, I don't know if anything needs to be added to his character at this point. I mean, he's been on SmackDown so much and then had a premium spot. Here's the crazy part. When he showed up in the Rumble, it didn't feel like NXT in the Rumble. It felt like SmackDown in the Rumble, So I don't think he needs anything else right now. I think a lot of this is about developing and adding to Trick Williams. I also wonder if Trick's popularity has grown faster than, NXT anticipated, and so because of that, because again, I don't think anybody thought in a million years that on Friday, with absolutely no buildup, Trick Williams shows up on SmackDown and the place goes crazy. Nobody saw that coming, not with Melo in the ring. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if he's grown faster than they planned for, and if they have to make adjustments to accommodate that. Because at this point, the way that Trick has everybody's attention, think about it. He started and ended NXT last night. Like that's pretty significant, So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But I do think that this weekend's going to be very significant. And if Melo is the one that did this, it's going to get ugly. Like when we end Vengeance Day, we're going to know why it's called Vengeance Day. It's going to be ugly. And silence fills the room.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like and you can never time the pop for somebody. I mean, everybody, you can't, it just depends on the fans and the right amount to push them and stuff like that. So I think it was in the bubble because they kind of did a nice slow kind of burn for him to get to where he is now. Mm-hmm. And it's very clear that Melo's going to the main roster. Mm-hmm. So that would make sense. We have a lot of comments here. Jeffrey saying, reports saying higher ups are happy for Trick's reception on SmackDown, and they say he could be WrestleMania main eventer. I don't know. I feel like there should be a little bit of separation between Melo and Trick. Trick should be in NXT for a little bit more if Melo's going up soon. There's that. Will the heel turn affect Melo's status on SmackDown? I would have rather had Trick in the Rumble over Pat. But the rumors are, I think Pat did say, well, we don't know if he was just kayfabing, but he did say that he didn't know, and it was like a last minute thing. So
yeah, I've got to think that he would not have had cowboy boots on if he knew he was going to be in the Rumble.
Yeah,
like running. Yeah, he's had sneakers on before, so yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I do think that Trick is going to be in NXT for a little while. Remember, NXT's got to get ready for the CW in October, and so they're going to need some big names to help do that. So I definitely think Trick will be there at least for the start of October for NXT before he makes his way back up to Raw or SmackDown.
Because he's so hot. Like
so hot.
The whole audience chant that's, can you imagine that that feeling? Like it's really insane that you have a whole bunch of people literally chanting about it's crazy.
Yeah, it's special. It's special.
I like Bose's comment. Outside of Trick doing 2 matches, this PLE is kind of just there. And looking at it, Obafemi, Dragon Lee, Lyra, and Roxanne, Dijak, Joe Gacy, no disqualification. You got the family. That might be an interesting match. The family versus OTM. We see Jada Parker and Adriana Rizzo. I think that can be an intriguing thing.
Yeah.
But when you look at some of these matches, outside of maybe Obafemi and Dragon Lee rematch, and maybe Lyra, Roxanne, the build for the pay-per-views feels like it's built around whatever's happening with Trick and Mello.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here's the fun part. Every time NXT has had a card like this where it felt like we were only watching for 1 or 2 matches, the pay-per-view crushes. Like every time. Every single time. So I think they're going to deliver. They'll stand too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, Professor, I'm sorry.
I was
really?
about to say, why does the professor get a want for that?
You're gonna want me for that? That was clever. Oh my god, that was clever.
Clearly, you're so proud of yourself, and you pause for a moment so we can catch it. And then the professor is just like good. That was a good one.
That was clever. Oh gosh, terrible.
Oh,
It's all right. It's all right. I'll take it.
Wow. Okay. What were you saying? Sorry.
I don't even know now. It's just got whomped. I really don't remember.
So here's the thing with the breakout contracts, and correct me, I don't know when the breakout contracts became Money in the Bank briefcases. I have no idea when that happened, where you can just bring it out and have a match on the spot. But I do not believe for any second that Lola will use her contract to challenge on Sunday. Way too soon.
No, that wouldn't happen.
Never happened.
Can I help you?
Little professor agrees.
You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do this.
But I like these guys.
I know you like these guys, but you're not supposed to do this.
I'm not going to take them. I just want to see them. That's all.
Okay, you see them. You see them.
But I mean,
this is a trick. Don't trick me. Don't trick me.
But I can't. When I'm talking to someone, they won't hear me what I'm saying.
They hear you right now.
Without these?
Mm-hmm. Because this mic is right here. They hear you. But
I don't think so. I can hear it even louder.
No, you don't have to. It's okay.
Wait.
Just say wave and say hi.
Wait.
No. Wave and say hi.
Wait.
He likes to negotiate, as you can see. Yeah, I'm literally on live. Okay, so come on down. We're almost done. All right. Almost done.
But
Go ahead. No. Thank you. All right. We carry on.
The next WWT show will be Little Professor and Little Professor Adventures talking wrestling.
It'll be entertaining. That's for sure.
It'll be like 5 hours long, and it'll be hilarious.
Oh my god, I wouldn't let that happen. I wouldn't let that happen.
What else we got next?
Shall we have this Jade Cargill conversation?
Oh yeah.
Because so Jade Cargill had made a statement. I can't remember to whom, but she made the statement basically that AEW, her time there, prepared. Bring that back, please. Leave it here. Stop. I'm so sorry, guys. All right, now you can go. Go ahead. Her time in AEW properly prepared her for this run in WWE. Mm-hmm. And people, I guess, took that and ran with it. And so literally within the last hour and a half to 2 hours, she's hopped on to Twitter to remind people. And so she basically said this. There's no basically to it. She said, I'm going to say this and I'm done with it. I'm proud of where I came from and I am proud of where I am. All that making up stuff you fake pages and reporters do in between is not what I'm about. I do the work and I keep my mouth closed. Stop making something out of nothing.
Yep.
In other words, tribalism is stupid.
Can we go to wrestling?
Excuse me, saints and friends.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he said saints and friends.
Saints and friends. I mean, there's nothing else to add on to that. I mean, she's absolutely right. She definitely seems like the type that like she's just here to do the work. She's just here to do the work, and it's kind of almost like judge her by the contents of her performance. And I think we all, and I think she would acknowledge it too, her performance at AEW was as much as she could give with the experience that she had. They made her a champion, but she didn't start off in the indies. Like we all know the things, so you can't really that's almost like expecting a teenager who plays football to now say, look, we're going to put you in the NFL, and now you're going to expect him to do the stuff that NFL players do. Or even if you just do a workout, those are two different workouts. So she had the experience there. She's with WWE. It's a new era. We've all talked about that as well. I don't even think it's just wrestling. I think media and social media is just in this really strange place right now where it's like overlapping of comments and then also perceptions and grandiose stories from one little thing. And it's unfortunate, but I think Jade has the right attitude. And I would also quote Zoe Stark. She's a big proponent of posting and ghosting, which I'm a big proponent for as well. And you just do the work. Not everybody has the time to be on social media 24 hours a day when you can actually be doing something else. So shout out to her. I'm a big fan. She was amazing when I met her. If you're familiar with folks from the islands, very, very like West Indian mentality in a good way. And I won't deep dive into all of that, but if you know, you know. So yeah. Is the little professor okay? Is he like somewhere?
Oh, he's fine. He's fine. He just wanted to be in the spotlight.
Is he somewhere crying, wishing that? I remember when I was a kid, when I used to get licks, I used to wish, like, I was like, I'm gonna run away, and my mom was like, okay, like you can go. And then I try to start packing my clothing, and she's like, yo, those are mine though. So
hilarious.
Yourself, but the stuff I paid for.
Right.
So, anywho, it's a little.
Let's turn into a conversation about getting licks as a child. That means TK was a bad kid.
I was actually a very good kid, and I'll give a shout out to in particular my mom. Like every beating or licks, my friends tell me there's a difference in how I say it, but it wasn't. Everything was well deserved. I could attribute it to what I did, and I didn't get it too often. I was an A student. Thank you very much. But I was a child. Just what children get into trouble. Sorry, said not everybody could be like you, the upstanding citizen in his youth. Not bad. Some of us are not perfect.
Very, very popular in my community. But this is not about me. We're talking about Jade Cargill. And she pretty much just put to rest all of the tribalism and the AEW versus WWE talk, because she's proud of both companies. Using one as a platform or stepping stone to go to the next is something you do in any career field. And it's no doubt in my mind that being in WWE will prepare her for more stardom and getting some Hollywood roles. Personally, I like to see her catch a cameo on She-Hulk when season 2 comes around. Mm-hmm. So I think that would fit like a glove for her. But she's talking about getting the experience she got, ultimately wanting to go where she wants to go. And it's however you look at it, whatever spectrum you look at it as, a stepping stool or just climbing the ranks as a performer, as a wrestler, we do that in any other industry. So it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it just kind of reminds me, again, how people will have a separate set of standards for themselves versus everybody else.
Oh, wait, breaking news, JD, there's no She-Hulk season 2. Wait, did they do season 2? There's no season 3. They did a season 2. So there's no season 3? Is this what you're saying, JD?
Oh, bye.
Sorry, I'm a fan.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so I think too often people have one set of rules for themselves and another set of rules for everyone else, and so because of that, you impose these rules on wrestlers or performers that you wouldn't live up to yourself. How many people have taken jobs in preparation for other jobs. It's the reason why some people won't even give a 2 weeks notice when they leave their job, because they intended to go to the other job. It was the whole reason that they went there. I think it's, I'm trying to say this part carefully. Okay, here's what most fans don't know. What most fans don't know is a number of first of all, most of the people in these wrestling companies know each other, like with any other industry. In a record company, you may work at different labels, but you know each other, right? What most people don't know is sometimes these labels talk to each other. And sometimes these labels make plans for these artists based on what's going to work best. And so there are scenarios, and again, this is what most fans outside of the business would not understand. There are many times where if you're not ready, well, this isn't actually even news because wrestlers have said this when they've gone, for instance, for tryouts at WWE and they aren't successful, and they'll tell them, go out, work on your craft for the next year or 2 years, and then come back. What are they saying? Go work, do your thing, build up your craft, and then come back, because by then you will likely have the kind of skills that are necessary to work here. I don't understand, first of all, why that's such a bad thing. And second of all, what most people don't understand is if the company you're trying to work for sent you out with the intent of you coming back, how is that a bad thing? So I think we got to do better with this type of stuff. We really do.
And two, it might just be that they have what you're offering, they already have. So even though it might be great, for you to be part of the company, say you get a part of the company and there's nothing for you because there's already somebody who looks like you, or they already have that gimmick or whatever, it's far better for you to develop. And this is the great thing. This is the great thing about social media, especially within wrestling. And I guess you can say entertainment as well. You can promote yourself and create such a name that it's going to be hard to ignore you. I mean, if you look at Izzy, for example, and of course, how she started with Bayley and all this other stuff, but she's doing the wrestling, she's doing stuff at Mission Pro. But if you look at her social media, it's hard to ignore her. So if WWE is just come back when you're ready, it's hard to ignore her.
Right.
So it only bodes well when she finally turns 18 that she does this. She's been doing this all her life. And then she added the social media component. It's a win-win. So, there's just so many different things that, I mean, it's no different than you applying for a job. You do the interview and you're like, I'd be so perfect. It's but you might not be. The person who you worked with would have been terrible. And now, so there's just so many different things, but I think it's I think with wrestling, people don't apply the real life things to wrestling. It oftentimes feels more like a fairy tale. The fact that you can go and attack wrestlers online, not realizing that they're people. Wait, what? So I think there's just a lot of different things that are in play, and people have to deal with their own things. Jeffrey saying, preach, professor. And MDB 999 say they'll give 2 weeks notice when they get fired. Well, there's that too. But if you want to come back, that's a whole nother thing. Anywho, is there anything else that you want to talk about before we get out of here?
I'm good. Support wrestling.
Support wrestling. Support all wrestling.
All wrestling.
Yeah, I think we're.
So I saw this comment and calling CIP because that article TK just shared with me makes it seem like it's very open-ended and there's still a chance. And they already removed the Twitch stream from consumption, so that lets me know that
you're lying.
Still a chance for She-Hulk season 2. And
nice. And congratulations to Kazuchika Okada, who is officially a free agent. And that's all we'll say about that because we don't have time to do more.
There's a lot of spiraling around that, the whole removal of merch on Pro Wrestling Tees, but a lot of people are just saying that they have to do that because it's New Japan branded merchandise as far as like the tagging and stuff like that.
Well, but that's the other thing is New Japan has always had a spot on Pro Wrestling Tees. You know, the Okada merch I got is from Pro Wrestling Tees and their agreement with New Japan. So I don't know that that's the case. I think like everything else, we will ultimately wait and see.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if we hear that that coin drop in Philly, it's gonna go crazy.
I just hope it's followed by Travis Porter.
I don't know.
I won't poison your mind with that song, Professor. We did enough damage with Sexy Red, so I won't even poison your mind with the lyrics of that record.
Fair enough.
Was that the song that you're listening to when you're out on the streets in Florida?
I didn't have a lot of time in Florida, so no. Mm-mm.
All right.
Just a very wholesome, family-friendly weekend.
With that being said, where can everybody find you? He said.
It's actually not labeled there. I got to fix my tags when I use this computer. But you can find me on Twitter at Said Says. It's CEDD_SAYS on the gram. It said is the answer. I write for Daily DDT. I should be having a Royal Rumble post thoughts article dropping sometime soon. I also write for this platform. There's also a NXT after show review show in the mix, according to the real TK.
There is an NXT.
Don't blame me. Blame my tag team partner, Shawn Michaels, aka Jacob DeLawrence. I'm just the lowly secondary option of that tag team. So
wow, there's an NXT show coming down the pipes, and there is a Raw SmackDown show coming down the pipes as well. So you guys could be on the lookout for that and more. So there it is. Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah, I don't got nothing else. What else do I normally say? You like bow ties? I do journalism stuff too. CedricDWalton.com. But yeah, that's all I got.
Professor.
You can find me at Bonnerfied across all of the social spaces. You can check out my commentary work with Southern Honor Wrestling and IWE on IWTV. You can check out my work with All Caribbean Wrestling on their YouTube channel. On the Nightmare Factory tip, we just dropped Student Showcase 12 today. So you can definitely check it out, doing commentary on there. And that is on the Nightmare Factory's YouTube page. So check that out. Also, month of February, I will be again with Ashe Wrestling. Really looking forward to that. Also be with All Caribbean Wrestling, and got a big show with SHW coming up this Friday. I felt like there was some other piece of news to mention. Oh, yes. Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. Next Thursday will be that show. Kind of pumped. Maybe next week I'll tell you guys, for those who aren't familiar with the history of Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. It is the indie promotion created by Dusty Rhodes. And so it's really cool to see that relaunch. And I can tell you that both Matt Cardona and Ricky Starks will be there. So it's going to be a pretty big show. Really excited to see all that's going to happen there.
Bosa Singh said he doesn't want to be responsible for NXT after show with Della. I mean, it's happening, Bosa, information officer, but you know, we have to get all the logistics together. But
Massa want it. Massa gonna get it. Massa TK. I just do what TK says.
Wow. I mean, I am just
tomorrow's Black History Month. I shouldn't have did that.
I'm just constantly shocked at the power that people just bestow on me. Like I have that much power, and I genuinely wish I did, but I don't. But you know, maybe it's just the way I carry myself. It's that West Indian mentality. Anywho,
West Indian, 3 phones,
2 phones,
different departments in the home. Loans. We've seen a lot in the last few months. You know.
Anywho, you can follow me anywhere, everywhere at TK Trinidad. Make sure you follow Women's Wrestling Talk everywhere at www.talkpod.com. We actually have a really great thing for Black History Month is dropping tomorrow. We have a great partnership with WOW that we're going to be doing a a series with them, and some other partnerships coming down the pipe. So look out for that on our social media and website. Like I said, we're going to be dropping some new shows, all that stuff leading up to WrestleMania, which is going to be some great things as well. With that being said, thank you guys so much for joining. So many people in the chat. What's Cousin Ron saying? Said you just do it.
He does.
Wow, you said just do what she says. Only wow. Okay.
Just do what he does.
Shout out to Cousin Ron, Bobby in the chat, Bosa, Jeffrey, JD, Special Little Nobodies, MDB 999, Eric, everybody else who is joining and commenting. Shout out to everybody also as well on our IG Live. Thank you guys so much for joining Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao, y'all.
Hey, I'm Renee Paquette, and you are watching Women's Wrestling Talk.